Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia Ferrari.
And I'm Bridget Henn.
And we're both occupational therapists here at START Institute. And we wanted to talk to you today about this time of the year where school's starting again. And we start to see, kids getting nervous, get going into class. Sometimes it's first time because it's preschool, and sometimes they've already been to school because of kindergarten. But either way, we want to kind of talk about this phase.
Yeah, so school can be a really exciting and fun time for a lot of kids and families, but also it can bring up some emotions of maybe feeling nervous or anxious about starting this new routine and this new phase in life, meeting new friends, being in a classroom, and being introduced to all these new and unfamiliar experiences. And this is not only true for kids, but also for parents as well. So how do we know when these feelings of nervous and anxiousness override a child's ability to, their capacity to be in a classroom?
So that's kind of what we wanted to highlight today, are some things, you could call them red flags, that you would look for in your own child, within your own family, of like, wow, maybe my kiddo is struggling a little bit. And before we even get into that, I think it's important to think about, it really sets the stage. This young of an age is really important because it really sets the stage for their whole career in school and their outlook of school. So it's young and it's a really small problem now, but with the right support, it won't be a problem at all. Or if it doesn't get the right support, it turns into a huge lifelong struggle. So some of those red flags.
Some of those red flags may, first, right off the bat, might just be the child's difficulty in separating from their mother or father or caregiver, whoever might be getting them ready for the day. Maybe they don't want to get dressed. They're crying for hours at a time, latching on to their parents or caregivers. Maybe this continues to the transition, in the car, the drop off at school, and that kind of just internal feeling of the parent that maybe just this isn't right, and they're just not ready to separate from myself to be in a classroom with all of these new people.
I think that's a really good point of like your parental instinct of knowing, like, we're so ready for this, and also having that feeling of this just doesn't feel right. Another piece to think about is their ability to play with other kids and play skills and follow that routine. Sometimes that is just too high of a demand. Kiddos are just trying to deal with themselves and their own bodies in this new crazy environment and situation with these new adults that they've never met before without their mom and dad. So if they just can't adjust and adapt in the moment to sit at circle time and to line up to go potty together and to go through those motions of just a normal day in the classroom, even after those first few weeks and they've learned it and they kind of know what to expect and it's still a challenge, that's definitely something you got to think about.
And I think that also falls into a child becoming more independent in these early years of school. So them being more independent in their routine of maybe putting their belongings away when they get into the classroom, knowing where their place is at a table or during circle time, being independent in pottying. Snack time can also be a really anxious situation for a lot of kids that, might have some challenges with feeding or eating. So thinking about all those foundational skills, the gross motor, the fine motor, their ability to be regulated enough to be independent in this setting, and even be able to advocate for themselves when they do need a basic skill met.
Absolutely. So I think going off of that, one other piece is the ability to know how to advocate, because their whole lives up until now, as a mom and dad, you could read your kid's mind. They don't even have to say what they need, and you don't really realize that that's actually a skill you have to learn until they're in a situation where they have to pull that from themselves, because the teacher's not going to be able to read their mind. Are we forgetting any other big pieces?
Well, I think the piece of co-regulation and regulation really come into play in this setting is, again, those early stages of life, they are co-regulating with their parents or their caregivers. And now, what happens when they go into a setting where they don't have that undivided attention or that person consistently co-regulating with them to help them be calm and available in this multisensory environment. So their ability to self-regulate really comes into play during this phase and during this transition, and that can be really challenging for a lot of our kids.
And like you said in the beginning, a lot of our parents.
Exactly.
That nervousness of like setting your kiddos free in that moment. So we have to validate that too. So I think we've covered about everything. If you're interested in what are the next steps now that you know what these red flags are, and you might start to see them in your own family and think, okay, now what do I do?
And I think this is also an important message for educators too.
Oh, great.
Not just for parents and caregivers, but for educators to also keep these signs in mind.
Absolutely, because they're the ones that are seeing it firsthand of like what's going on. So, and I know, as being in a classroom, when you get that feeling of like, oh man, this kiddo just needs a little bit more support and they would do great. So just check out our link. I think it's on the screen, and contact Bridget or I if you have any questions.
Thank you.